seeing what happened to weed between the 1800s when Dr. Shaughnessy kind of discovered it and kind of brought it over here, and or that version of cannabis. Between that time and alcohol prohibition, and seeing the players at that time from not just Henry Anslinger, but the Carnegies and all the robber barons of that industrial time, of them seeing the vast value and positive monetization of this potential plant as a huge threat to their development of the new innovations like aspirin.
Hey, yo, we put free money where the mic is. He got it on lock like Rikers. Green rebates get you paid, so a lot of people like us. Money Talks Podcast, watch it on all your devices. Woo!
Welcome back to the Money Talks Podcast. This is our first ever remote podcast. I hope it's not awkward. Most of the podcasts that we've done, it's been in person. I haven't even met you in person, but I've done a ton of research. What I'm excited about is this is the first podcast where I actually was able to do adequate research. So Christina Cassidy is the founder of Concierge Consulting. Over 20 years in the cannabis community. She specializes in cannabis education, advocacy, marketing, and you focus on empowering women, seniors, and newcomers to make informed consumption decisions. And what I love about what you do is you have this quote where you say, the more educated the consumer is, the more innovative the products will be, which I couldn't agree with more. So, Christina, thank you so much. How are you feeling today? Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much for that fabulous intro, Ethan. You're just a doll. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be speaking with you today. I actually can't believe we've never met. It's kind of wild, but I think that will happen. That will change very soon. I am a serial normalizer. My whole life, I've grown up here in San Diego in the legacy market, and I've lived and worked and hung out with some of the coolest people in Southern California that, between the 80s and 90s have established some of the most venerated, like beautiful strains of genetics and are still growing today. And I've been able to be part of this social change over the last 25 years. And it's a real pleasure to be part of it because I genuinely love this plant so much for my own personal reasons, but it's really is a catalyst for social change in our world.
Absolutely. So when you were growing up, what made you say, what was that transition where cannabis, it went from, oh, this is just something that I do recreationally to, oh, this is something I'm really passionate. I want to be an advocate for this plant. What was that moment?
That is a great question. So I discovered weed when I was about 15 years old, and my friend's older brother was like, hey, check this out. He was growing it. And now that we look back, he was giving it to his neighbors who were fighting cancer, and he was selling a little bit and stuff, but he gave us some herb to try. And I remember being like, oh, I'd gone through the DARE program where a cop in the 80s had brought a literal clear acrylic box of compartments of real drugs into our classroom. I know, I still can't believe it. But now that I look back, it had really shitty weed. It was like brown. Bad. But anyway, so I was a product of the DARE generation. So, cannabis had this kind of bad stigma to it. And I was always taught to say no to drugs. And, but my friend's brother was like, hey, this is a plant I'm growing it here in the backyard. You guys want to try it? It's safe. I'll be around, blah, blah, blah. So we tried it and I thought, oh my God, this feels wonderful. Like, what is the problem here? And, so I remember, just being kind of a young stoner and being really quizzical about why people hated this plant so much. And at the same time, my mom had friends who, one was an AIDS patient and was really in bad shape and had been using weed to try to eat. And that had been mentioned on phone calls that I kind of overheard. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, this plant that is helping somebody who's really going through a terrible point in their life is so vilified. And I remember just reading actual books, this is pre-Google, and just finding magazines and books and going into the adult only magazine area. And I saw High Times and I was always like, wow, there's so much culture there. Why is it so hated?
Right.
And I just really enjoyed it. It also helped me alleviate my own anxieties, you know, 15, 16-year-old girl, in kind of a chaotic, you know, upbringing. And I didn't like drinking. So it was really like, oh, this is also very like chill for socializing, and I don't have hangovers and whatever. So I immediately loved it for personal reasons. But then I started studying it and became really attuned to the fact that there's a reason that this plant is so vilified and so tightly controlled.
Mm.
And when I was in college, I went to San Diego State, very proud, lifelong Aztec alumni. And I smoked a ton of weed in college, but I also got very good grades. I was playing intramural soccer. I was the president of my honor society. I was crushing it, but I was also smoking a shit ton of weed. So I was like, how is this possible? And my friends were dealers, and, you know, I'd move a little weed to buy my books or whatever. And so I was really like, this is just a great thing in our world. And this was in the late 90s. And I was in the library reading microfiche. Like, do you know what microfiche is?
No.
No. So microfiche is like the old school scans of newspapers, articles that were then put on these reels, and you'd go to the library and you'd sit at this machine that would then magnify them, and you'd just like scroll through it. And I was reading these articles from all over the country I was trying to find stuff about cannabis, its criminalization, its historic, you know, beginnings in America, and like where it began in the world. I was just like really deep diving as a student of the plant. And I started to see all these patterns with the criminalization of the plant and societal change shifts that were not always good. And when I was in a class about, you know, I'm a sociologist, so I was studying social change, social control through qualitative research and ethnomethodology. So a lot of interviewing of people who were in different types of social cohorts and different groups. And it became very obvious to me in the studies of like the 1930s and prohibition, and, you know, politics is also a big passion of mine, and something I've studied for a long time. So seeing what happened to weed between the 1800s when you know, Dr. Shaughnessy kind of discovered it and kind of brought it over here, and or that version of cannabis, between that time and alcohol prohibition, and seeing the players at that time from not just Henry Anslinger, but the Carnegies and all the robber barons of that industrial time, of them seeing the value, the vast value and positive monetization of this potential plant as a huge threat to their development of the new innovations like aspirin, and how they wanted to make sure that they would be able to sell their new innovations to American people. And essentially, this is a very oversimplified version of it, but they essentially were like, how can we make people afraid of weed, afraid of what they're already using, so that they'll come use our pills? Because up until then, moms, children, everybody, the pharmacist on the corner was the person who knew everything about weed. And they were prescribing it for stress, cough, all sorts of stuff for everybody. And so they thought, okay, we'll make it about the people. We'll make others. We'll otherize the Black people, Mexican immigrants, and the Jazz Age as this demonic force, and that cannabis was integrated in that. And of course, Reefer Madness came out, and for 70 years plus, it's been treated as, you know, a Schedule I drug, you know, since 1970. So just as a kid learning and seeing all this historical context and having a totally different experience, I was like, okay, now I get it. It's so powerful that they must control it.
Wow.
So that has been my focus as an academic, for sure. but also as just an advocate for plant liberalization and people sitting in jail for stuff that uh, you can buy in most places in the United States now with a license. So
Yeah.
it's crazy to me that I've been able just in my lifetime to see that shift in California and pathways in 43 states now. So it's really amazing to watch it, but it's not without like major problems, as you and I both know.
Yeah, yeah, it's rough time right now. So, did you? Because I remember, I'm 34, so I do remember the commercials and the demonization of marijuana. Are you surprised to see? Like, did you ever think, especially knowing as much as you know about the history, and the demonization of marijuana, are you surprised to see where we are now? How far it's come? The fact that it is legal in so many states.
I'm not surprised because the people will. This is power to the people for me, is as far as I'm concerned. And it's a slippery slope. We had to get to this point where somebody who doesn't know much about cannabis but has heard that it can help their back can go into a store and get it with very low barriers to entry other than that proving their age. We wouldn't have been able to get to this point where someone can say, I want 1 milligram. I want a product that I can get 1 milligram of weed.
Right.
We wouldn't be able to do that if we hadn't gone through the unfortunate Prop 64. Growing up here, I was not pro 64. It was a big problem because I have friends who were like, this is going to decimate our livelihood. And then you have that with the tension of the necessary push toward innovation to serve medicine to more people. So it's unfortunate that we have to go through this, but I hope that other states and municipalities learn from the pain that we have gone through and do it better. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but like just look at data and see that struggle bus is struggle bussing. And yeah, I am surprised that we're at this point, but also not, because it's people know the value of cannabis and they love it in their lives, and it's also a massive tool for economic development if we don't bastardize it, which we have with 4 and 5 times over taxation and treating it as horribly as it's been treated. But it's such a complex issue with politics and money, and we're in like the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world in California.
Yeah.
So like it's gonna be messy. It's gonna be messy. But now I think that the municipalities that do accept cannabis that to don't, I want to say it's more 60% are allowing commercial cannabis to 40% not allowing it, which was flipped up until very recently. I could be wrong, but municipalities are seeing the economic development, and they're seeing their neighbors, their either states or counties, bringing in tax dollars. That's a whole other discussion about like where those go and stuff, but they don't want to miss out. So you see it in states that are newly recognizing their ability to legalize and sell this plant to generate money and to please their citizens, so they don't go over state lines or go to the next zip code to buy what they want.
Right. So, okay, so you graduated. Shout out to Aztecs. My cousin went to San Diego State, and actually, the worst day of my life was the day I got rejected to San Diego State.
No,
I
I
still
hate
remember
that.
it. It was rough. I didn't know that SAT scores mattered. I was like, "Oh, I'm a cool guy. I have decent grades." But yeah, I guess they care about test scores. But
Evidently, they still do. Or
yeah. So you graduate from San Diego State. You got a degree in sociology. What does life look like after college for you? Did you go? I mean, I know there's no like jobs in cannabis back then. So
No,
what was life like for you
no.
after college? And when did that intersection between sociology and cannabis happen?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that I was totally closeted. I closeted my cannabis use, my association, my expertise for decades because I had jobs in hospitality. I had a great career actually in hospitality here in San Diego. I love um, hotels and gatherings and stuff like that. And so I hid my herb use completely. I did not want to be judged and I wanted to keep my job. And so I had careers in hospitality, very successful. I went on to work in the entertainment industry for a bit. And then I had a wonderful career in public education fundraising for a progressive district of public charter schools here in San Diego. And I'm, as an academic, I am very passionate about public education. I'm a product of it. My child's a product of it, and it's something that is constitutionally mandated that we get public education in this country. So, being in a charter school that was very progressive and doing things in a really equitable way was also wonderful. But I also hid my cannabis use 100% there as well. Until I found a couple friends who I was like, oh, you smoke. But I was director of development of a foundation. So I definitely was hanging out with people who were a lot more socially conservative than and I didn't want to reveal that. So I hid it. But in that entire time, I was the teacher for my friends, my family members. I was very out with my close knit family and circle, social circle, and so I was often the one that was called about, like, "Hey, I'm having this problem. What might be able to help?" And I would be able to counsel, and I became really good at that. I am a teacher at heart, and I discovered after leaving my career in fundraising, which public education layoffs are rampant. And I was part of a round of layoffs and was like, what am I going to do? Yeah. I loved that job. My daughter attends those schools now. I helped bring them from 7 to 16 schools. Wonderful, wonderful experience there. So I had a lot of identity in that job. But then the rest of my expertise outside was really in this plant, around this plant, and advocating for its use for many different reasons and for different people. So I was sitting in my backyard smoking a joint with a friend, and she said, you should just professionally do this. Because she was asking me some questions about, like, she didn't want to really get too high during the day. And I was like, oh, you can do things that don't get you too high. Yeah. And so she's like, you should do this as a profession. And I thought, well, I mean, will I ever be able to work again? Like, I don't know. Is this real? Yeah. And, but I was consistently doing these kind of casual consults. And I have clients now who I still work with to this day. And I launched my business in 2017. And I was kind of blind item for a little bit. I was like afraid to show my face, and which is ironic because I am a ham and I love being on camera. But I eventually was like, hey, if I'm going to really do this, I need to be authentic. I want to make sure that people know who I am and that I'm unafraid. Right. And I have privilege to do that because I have a partner who's able to help support me as I began this company. And so a lot of privilege in being able to do that. And I also have a background in photography and writing. So I thought this is actually a really good thing. I can use Instagram and a blog to spread my expertise to people and find my community of people who want to know this stuff. And also I can learn from them. As somebody who's an educator, I also know that I have a lot to learn. There's so much we don't know about this plant. So, 2017, I incorporated, and I started by basically just building a roster of clients. So I work with mainly women over 50. I have a few clients in their 20s and 30s, but we do consults on a regular basis, not weekly or anything like that. Usually it's about once a month. I have one client that I've had for years. She sits on the bench, the federal bench, and can't take drugs, can't have a mind shift during her workday, but has some nerve issues that she wanted to alleviate. And so she's like, I can't even search this stuff on my computer. You need to like do all this for me. So I was like, okay, I'll be like your weed concierge.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh wait, I come from hospitality. This is weed. I love puns. My company is the concierge. This is great.
Nice.
So I essentially was like her like weed mule, sort of. But I found myself going out and trying all these products to figure out what's going to work for her. Because
Wow.
I was like, okay, she wants 1 milligram or something that's not going to mind shift. So I was out trying tinctures and tablets, RSOs, and then I came across like sort of transdermal patches, and I thought, this is it. This is the thing. And so a couple of years ago, when they started making the non-activated versions of the cannabinoid patches, like the THCAs, the CBDAs, I introduced those to my client, and it's been a life-changing thing for her. She cuts them into quarters and puts them on her hip, and it's like, great. And that's the kind of person that I talk to, and she wants help in her cannabis journey. So she asks me questions. I answer those questions. If I don't know the answer, I go out and find that for her, and we continue talking. And she, to this point, has tried a whole bunch of different stuff.
Wow.
And so I have clients that I still work with, and I do those kinds of things with. And now I really love doing product innovation projects with brands and companies who are working on bringing things to market that are just innovative and really cool things. And as a serial adopter, I just love to try everything new. So
Yeah.
it's that is my superpower, is being able to kind of try all this stuff and be a filter for people based on what they're looking for, and being able to make that an enjoyable experience.
Amazing. So you're on the cutting edge of like cannabis products. What's some cool innovation that you've experienced recently?
Well, yeah, I really am. I love new stuff, and what I really think is the most innovative thing right now is the ability to titrate down to 1 milligram. I mean, it and the availability of cannabinoids, not just THC, not just CBD, but all these minor cannabinoids, and of course the raw forms, the THCAs. That is so powerful, because people really do sometimes just, they cannot have a mind shift, and they just want to not be in pain. So I am all about that kind of stuff. I love the drinks. Innovation in the drink category is really awesome, because it is a totally different metabolization than edibles, smoking, dabbing, topicals, everything. It's just a lot more accessible and normal for people who are kind of eschewing alcohol now. And, the data is showing that when herb is available, alcohol consumption and sales go down like 40%, like big time. So people really do want options. So I love the fact that there's now the availability of like a drink additive, where if you want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever cannabinoids, or milligrams rather, you can do that. And that's what I think is so great, is that it just opens up the accessibility more broadly for people who might not necessarily want to pick up a joint,
Yeah.
but a familiar consumption method like a drink is a wonderful, gateway. So in that way, it is a gateway to wonderful things.
Yeah, and it's what's cool that I'm realizing it's kind of big in LA and SoCal, California, is how many like young people are just like cutting out drinking. There's like bars that are just sober bars. But like I'm someone who's, on my sobriety journey, I've just come to the realization that alcohol is not good for my mental health, and it's not good for a lot of people's mental health. But I still do crave like a little bit of a mind shift. So
Yes.
I don't know what type of sober this is, but I'll go months at a time where I don't drink, but I'll just like microdose shrooms. I don't know if you're into the shroom world.
Absolutely.
And it really opens up, as a creative, it opens up my mind, and there are really no bad like negative side effects. But I'm trying to figure that out with cannabis. But I have a really weird relationship with cannabis, where I smoked a ton of weed in college, as we all did, and then all of a sudden one night I just had a panic attack, and then 1 out of every 3 times I smoke weed, I just think about the worst things ever. Like when my parents are gonna die, like just like
I know.
my dog, like
Yes,
so. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I wanted to pick your brain, like as someone who's trying to like completely ditch alcohol, but still, wants to be creative and craves a little
Oh
bit of a
yeah.
mind shift. Like, what advice do you have for me? I'm just asking you for free work is what I'm doing
Yeah,
right
yes, absolutely. I stopped drinking, like I have one drink or two a year, like if there's like a nice cocktail or something.
Right.
But I stopped drinking like 6 years ago, probably.
Hmm.
And I felt really like isolated for a while about it because there's the social aspect of drinking that I love.
Right.
I love my friends and I like going out and having fun, but I am just like, I think I'm low key allergic to alcohol. Like one drink, okay, two drinks, I will be sick. Like
Right.
it's just not good for me.
Right.
So for me, I think one of the best things was having access to like a festive drink. Like the weed drinks has that's probably one of the main reasons why I love it so much is that I can go out, be social, and I brought a great drink for me to also enjoy, um, and not overdo it. And I also like it because you can layer that a little bit with some smoke or maybe a little bit of a microdose, and it's very like perceptible for anybody. Like you can kind of titrate it down. I personally don't like to do too much cross fading. Um, but with weed and like a microdose of mushrooms, about 0.15 of a gram up to maybe 0.25, like real microgram, like real microdose.
Hmm.
That's my real happy spot is
Right.
no alcohol.
Yeah.
And I think it's also a journey, don't be hard on yourself if you're like, oh, I had a couple drinks. If you're
Yeah.
trying to redefine your own perception of being a non-drinker,
Hmm.
because I felt myself like, oh, I just had a drink. Am I still a non-drinker? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're fine. Like, for folks who have addiction issues, I think that it is a slippery slope
Yeah.
when you're trying to not have any kind of mind shift and get like clear in your mind. But for people who are just trying to change their lifestyle, yeah, try those drinks for sure. If you haven't tried any of them, I mean, it's a really wonderful thing to find a cannabis derived THC infused drink.
Yeah, I saw there Pabst Blue Ribbon. Have you heard of that one? It's
Oh
like a
yeah.
cannabis. Yeah.
Yeah, Pabst Labs has been, they were really early into the drinks market. So they have their excellent line of seltzers, and they've also got Sainides under their banner, and the Sainides tea, which has a total cult following. It's 100 milligram tea. It tastes great. It works great. And what I love as a consumer, like power to the people, is that they've put the price right on it. And that, as a marketer, is so smart. I mean,
Right.
it's the Arizona iced tea model, and they've cornered that little piece of the market, and now other makers are also putting their price on that 100 milligram drink, which is
Right.
important because they were getting that to be like $20 for a drink. No, 8, $9 max,
That's
and
it.
St. Ides help do that. And I'm like, yes, real ones for that. And I
Awesome.
just the other day I was drinking something from another company, and I was like, oh look, the price is on there now because it's the St. Ides effect. So I love those because they work really well, and just for that reason.
Right.
But also they have like the seltzers that are like 10 milligrams is really like a true microdose. So you can delve in and not get overwhelmed.
Totally.
Yeah.
You work with that's a good transition because you not only do you work with consumers, but you work with cannabis brands.
Yes.
So what, working with brands, how hard is it to sustain to be a successful cannabis brand for a long time? Because we always see like brands pop up and we're like, whoa, they're popping, and then 3 years later, it's like, wait, where did they go? So
Oh, yeah.
how hard is it to have longevity as a cannabis brand?
I think it's really difficult. Some of that, the extinction events are because of internal problems. Maybe they didn't have a good product. Maybe it just wasn't able to compete in the market. But also, you have to remember that, like with the waves of regulatory changes, those lead to a consolidation. Brands come together to survive, and some just cannot operate. Like so, it's not always like regard. You could be the best thing in the world and something is fucked up in your market and somebody's outpacing you and you don't have the distribution, or there's just something that's going to hold you back. I think personally, if I'm thinking about some of the longest running brands that I know and I've worked with for a long time, they grow conservatively, but with using data. So if they're going to bring some new SKUs to market, they're not bringing tons of them. They're basing them on really what the market will bear in price and what consumers really want. And they're not overextending themselves with huge marketing campaigns and flashiness.
Yeah.
So there's a lot at play there. You some of the most successful brands in California also just have really good investors and have consolidated, have come together to kind of survive. And we saw a round of that after Prop 64 passed, and after about 5 years, when all of those things sunsetted from the canopy caps and stuff like that, a bunch of more extinction. Yeah. So it really is hard. I don't know how the best brands honestly stay up, other than just like good hires, really smart and product innovation people, marketers who are really in touch with the culture and they don't bastardize it. That's a big thing. Yeah. I'm going up to KSS, the trade show, tomorrow in Los Angeles, and Kiva, Lost Farm, Camino, they're doing a really good job at producing very high quality products that the market wants. Consumers want these things. They've got a few little minor cannabinoids in there. They've got some high dose, some mid dose. They've got a whole bunch of things going on. And they've got gorgeous, beautiful branding that speaks to the culture and lifestyle of the consumer and really, really highlights the product. And also they just got consistency. So if you can do all those things, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
You will survive. But I think that's a big reason why other states should be listening to people like me and looking at brands in California that are doing really well, and don't try to reinvent the wheel. Like, learn from our mistakes and also learn from the things we've done well. I come from a place at the district of schools that I worked for was run by a very, very smart cadre of people who pretty much all went to Harvard. I didn't go to Harvard, but I hung with those people very well, because the theory of our practice was always, if you're not asking for help here, you're not doing it right. Right. Everybody should be collaborating. Even if you're an expert in your area, it's a good thing to ask others for help. And I think a lot of people don't do that also. So it's the industry is really fraught in California, but there's a lot to learn. We've had decades of experience, and it's just there's a lot to learn, and it's a hard place, but it's a wonderful industry, and there's no other industry that has a true culture that preceded it and that demands respect in large part because of the sacrifice that other people have done or are doing to make it possible for us to go out and just buy whatever kind of weed we want.
Right. And as more and more states decriminalize and legalize, like I think tomorrow, Minnesota is finally giving out licenses to growers. So that recreational market hopefully is about to blow up. When they, cannabis or California and Colorado, they they were trailblazers. Yeah. What do other states, when they look at California specifically, what do other states think of when they see like California and how we operate business? Are they like, oh, I shouldn't do that? Or do they look up to what we
I don't
did?
think they look up. I think that we got a lot of shit talked about California, a lot. But there's a lot that we've done, there's a lot to look at, even if it's bad, like at least what not to do. But also California is unlike any other state. I just it is such a large state. It really has the population, of a country. So it's a very different animal. So it's hard for like an Ohio to compare, but they should see where there's overlap. For instance, like in Ohio, they have some wonky regulations where up until very recently, it was like a vape only kind of scenario where you weren't necessarily allowed to burn weed. Like they were not selling pre-rolled joints because they wanted people to take their cannabis and put it in a vaporizer only.
Weird.
So that's weird to me because that's not how smokers smoke. Like that's just not how cannabis users always. I mean, I have vaporizer, yeah, but it's not how we always use it. So all those people were just going to the state next door,
right,
to buy the pre-roll joints. And so Ohio doesn't have to compare itself to California, apples to apples, but they can say, oh, California offers pre-roll joints and not vape only. Like what are the implications of that? Like more money? Like to me, there are still things to learn, even if California has effed up a lot. And there's a lot that could be said for a lot of that. There's major problems, but there's no shift in society without that kind of pain and the tension that comes between with innovation. I mean, like that's it. Competition breeds innovation, and innovation will spread. So it's only a matter of time until these states, even Texas, will have to just face the music because they'll have a new generation of leadership in a couple of years, and Dan Patrick and Abbott will be out of their positions, and the people of Texas deserve access just like the people of California to hemp and cannabis. So it's just, I know plenty of New Yorkers who just scoff at California, which they're like, okay, you guys, but they've also benefited from what California, Colorado, Washington, all the first states. Like that's no joke. Starting this in the 90s with the medical program that's still going okay in San Diego. We still have our one medical dispensary that's been in since the 90s. So it's really like, it's great, but it's also, a cluster.
Wow.
And it's so different from every zip code in Cali and then every state. I mean, I've just finished a deep dive on like the regulatory status and like where we think we're going in the next couple of years for all the states in the union. Yeah. And nobody's without issues. I mean, everybody's got their problems. They just aren't the same.
It's just so confusing. Every state is so different from each other.
It's actually crazy.
Yeah.
And the federales, I mean, I am a person who doesn't really think I think it's deschedule or die for me as far as I'm concerned. It just can't be treated like anything else. But I don't think we'll ever get that because there's just too much on the line. The pharma, prison, and booze lobbies are just like, no, hard no.
Yeah, it's so. You, as someone who's an expert on like what the consumer wants, what right now in 2025, what does the consumer really want, and how much has that changed over the last, let's just say, 10 years?
Well, I think it's choices. I think at this point, people want choices, and they also want somebody who's educated to tell them like what's going on. So I think that the diversity of products, being able to offer people smoke, every consumption method under available should be available, because people from smoking, dabbing, putting on topicals, edibles, drinks, the pure medical kind of RSOs and stuff like that. There's a reason that those are all that those all exist, and it's because people really want them. Having a diversity of choice is, I think, probably the biggest thing. What it is in every different market is really interesting to me. I've been studying that too. So they want choice, and even in these new markets, they see what other more mature states are doing and the availability of all these cool products, and they want those too. They don't want to be left out. And I think that that's really what my biggest point of gratification will be is that when every state in the United States has access to cannabis for anybody 18 and over, and or 21, whatever, we can talk about the frontal lobe development, but that is having the availability of something that you can take in a method that's familiar to you and that works for you and achieves the goal that you are trying to reach. That's what I want. That's what I hope is, and that's what I think most consumers want. They want to have a lot of choices and not be told BS.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. So what's the future of the concierge? You've made so much progress. You've done amazing things. Like, where do you
Oh,
see
thank
the
you.
concierge going over the just maybe next 5 years? I know
Gee,
a lot of it has to do with where the market is headed and the legalization and what the
yeah.
government decides from state to state. But either way, I mean, it's cool how you've just carved your niche in this industry, and it seems like no one else is doing what you're doing, which is great.
I hope there are other people doing what I'm doing, honestly, because I am such a there are so many wonderful people who know so much in their own purview that they should be sharing in their own community. So I hope that in the next few years, I would love to get back to my roots of doing workshops. I am going to launch a YouTube and blog series that's going to basically cover the intersection of society and cannabis and product innovation, things that I'm really, really passionate about. I would love to work on some very cool projects with some reputable brands in the next couple of years, bringing some lovely products to market. And right now, I'm on the Buddhist team. I work with Jocelyn and Claudio and Matthew on the Buddhist app, which is a product review, a social app for product reviews for cannabis. And so, as an educator and a marketer and someone who loves weed, I'm going to be doing some projects with them with Buddhist. So, Buddhist is the official platform for the judging for the California State Fair that is occurring, the cannabis competition that's occurring for the third time in Sacramento this July. This is the second time that in this 170-year-old fair that they've had cannabis available as an exhibit, available for purchase and consumption. So I'm working on judging for that this year. It starts in July, and I'm very excited about that because I'm working with just some of the most knowledgeable and cool people in legacy weed and just in cannabis in general in California. That's really cool. And the normalization that comes with that is just, it's so gratifying to walk around and know that it's just as normal as somebody having a beer and then going on the Ferris ride. It's just not a big deal. And then we're going to be doing a bunch of educational workshops with some new outlets here in San Diego and other like consumption lounges. We have Sessions by the Bay that just opened here in San Diego. It's our first consumption lounge, and it's gorgeous. It's making a huge splash in South County, which is in desperate need for economic development, and it's incredible to see it in action. So we'll be doing Buddhist-led education sessions for consumers as well as bud tenders, which are a lot of different retail tie-ins there. So that's what I'm going to be working on for the next few months. And if there are brands out there that are looking for marketing and education assets and things like that, I'm your girl.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I am gonna like watch this episode multiple times because it's impossible to like retain. You're just so full of knowledge, and I'm
Thank
so
you.
I'm just a rookie in the cannabis game. I spent 9 years working in reality TV casting, and now I've left the dark side and I'm on the light side, and I'm just every day I'm just like overwhelmed with the amount of things that I
Yeah,
don't know. So I
I
just
am too. I am too. That's the thing. Is that's the I am too, and I love that. Like always be learning. That's one of my mottos in life, really.
Amazing. Well, yeah, thank you for hopping. Stay on with me. I'm just going to stop recording, and thank you so
Yeah.
much for hopping on with
Oh
me.
yeah. This has been such a delight. Thank you.
Yes.